Cinderella syndrome is something that affects every type of person. It's not exclusive to women.
Yeah, tell us what Cinderella syndrome is.
Essentially, it's the idea that our power lies in a person, in a job, in experience. So the idea of breaking Cinderella is to flip that switch.
For women who are in the leadership space, we often have a problem with delivering the assertion and assertiveness versus keeping that warmth.
I talk a lot about conscious leadership. Men are moving in this direction more, and that conscious leadership initiative is heavily moving into a space of empathy, and because the assertion is really just conviction. Underneath all that, there was like this insecurity of not feeling good enough, not being pretty enough, not being all the enoughs. My dad's a plastic surgeon. I used to sit in his slide room and look at before and afters for hours for fun as a child. So can you imagine what this does to a kid?
Yeah.
I'm like looking at how to improve everything, and you're never good enough.
If anyone was to be like, I'm having zero confidence, I need to like do this thing, please tell me just like one thing.
It's a compounding effect of multiple strategies. And that's from our thoughts, from the way we think to the way we speak.
Hi guys, and welcome to the Paul Podcast. Today I have a very special guest. She is a business coach and strategist and has been the president of a $100 million brand. She has just launched Breaking Cinderella, a business mastermind program, but she is going to tell us more about that right now. Hi, Rola.
Hi.
So in your own words, what do you do?
It's a really great question. I feel like I do a lot.
Yes, you do.
I do. So there's a few things. I've got a couple companies that I'm running, one of which is Breaking Cinderella, which I'm super excited. This is absolutely my passion. It's a program, a mastermind to help mainly women, although I want to say that we're not excluding men because Cinderella syndrome is something that affects every type of person. It's not exclusive to women. Meaning if your audience hasn't heard of Cinderella syndrome.
Tell us what Cinderella syndrome is.
Essentially, it's the idea that our power lies in a person, in a job, in experience. So I have to get that job. That's my power. I have to marry this person. That's going to be my power. I've got to get something outside of me, and that's what's going to help me gain power. The idea of breaking Cinderella is to flip that switch and to own the fact that we can actually go into create alignment and create a framework for ourselves so that we can now generate that power internally. And the idea is to generate it internally and then send it to that person, to that job, to that experience. It's a completely different way of being. And when we show up this way, magic happens. Truly, when I say magic, I'm not kidding. Like, the synchronicities that show up, the opportunities that show up, it's mind-blowing. I've seen it for myself. And when I really got into true alignment, it took me a while to get there, right? Like, I created and manifested, honestly. I consider myself an amazing manifester. But I didn't understand true alignment until I got to that point. That's when things got like tripled in the speed of how things show up and the opportunities. I would pinch myself like, I can't believe these things are happening for me. So when you create alignment, essentially that's where we create our power, and that's Breaking Cinderella.
I love that. I love that the concept of there's no one coming to save you. There's nothing that's going to change what it is, what you have in your life except for you.
And you know something? I grew up in Riyadh, and then I moved to the States
Saudi
when I was
babies.
18. So you grew up in the land of princes and princesses, right? And my parents were very well connected, so I was going to these royal weddings, and at 17 or 18, I'm not quite sure, I was proposed or asked for my hand by a prince. And because of the way that I was, I really valued freedom. I really wanted experience. I really wanted to kind of like own and move away from the he's a boy, he can do it, you're a girl, you can. I really disliked that thinking. And so I went to the US, started my life, went through college, and even though I don't believe and value that thinking, it's a program that you don't even know you're running.
100% a program.
Because what happens when you're going through a challenge? That's when you know. That's when you know how good or how strong you are, because that program shows up like when you're tired, when you're struggling through an experience and a challenge. You're like, oh, it'd be so nice if somebody just came and took over and helped me. And I've had those thoughts even going through all these experiences, and a lot of men and women have that experience.
So when you were proposed to by a prince, which is a lot of girls' dreams, they would be like, oh my God, why didn't you take that proposal? But at the same time, something inside of you must have told you that it's not
It wasn't
your
right for
path,
me. Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
what do you think it was? Do you think it was a mindset? Had you developed that mindset yet, or was it an instinct?
So Saudi Arabia was very different back then than it is today, right? It has
Right.
changed a lot. Now, back then, there were the religious police, and the restrictions on women were extreme.
Extreme, 100%.
And even though I went to an American school, so I'm exposed to both Western culture and Middle Eastern culture.
Yeah.
And so there's this, this balance between the two. I'm Egyptian and Syrian, so I've got the Middle Eastern expat experience, and I've got the American influence from the school and my friends. And so what do I see? I see this freedom and this happiness and this joy that the Americans are experiencing. I'm like, I want that, I want a balance. So naturally I was like, as nice as the luxury world looks, I really need to go find freedom and explore what that looks like and doing things on my own, because I really didn't buy into he's a boy and that means he can do things you can't. So.
And that's awesome, because I feel then you probably saw so much potential in yourself, right?
Of course.
So then that's why you were able to be like, no, not right now, kind of thing. But take us back to the trajectory of how this happened. So you were brought up in Riyadh. You graduated, and did you take like a traditional, like went to university, did the post grad in the US?
Yeah.
Okay. But actually, one of your kind of interesting things is that you never did an MBA, right?
Right.
You never did the whole post grad.
Right.
Why do you think that is? Why did you choose not to do that?
When I moved to the U.S., I went to school. I ended up in Birmingham, Alabama, which is completely random, I understand.
Okay.
I had family
Let
there.
me get away from everyone.
Yeah. But when I graduated, I went straight to Chicago.
Okay.
And I wanted the experience of being in a city that what I believed at the time was much more. It's not a global city by any means, but it's more of an international city. And the school I went to was not as much.
Right.
And so I was seeking that experience, because when I got there, it really contradicted the way I grew up. So that was my first instincts. Like, let me get to a major city. Right. I got there and I got into a pretty serious job in the lending industry. And because that happened so quickly and I started making great money.
Okay.
And for me in my early 20s, I'm like making more than a doctor. And the lending industry, as you know, was doing incredibly well prior to 2008. And so it just happened that I just fell into that space. And I started learning about self-development when I was 25, because I spoke to someone that was heavily in that space. She was a healer and someone who could read energy. And she introduced me to this entire world. And I started diving into self-development and learning how to elevate my consciousness, essentially. And that's why it just never happened. I just really kept learning and growing in the self-development field.
Right. Well, okay. So you went from graduating, went to university, did a job that was paying you really well. What do you think was the trigger of when you were in self-development, and then you were like, okay, I want to take this as my own kind of like skill set. I want to, and then share it with people. How did that happen? Was there a shift, or was it kind of like a gradual? Yeah.
So growing up, I was very outgoing. I'm a Leo. So I love people.
Love Leos.
Always love people and like really want to be out and about with everybody, and the more the merrier type of personality, right? But underneath all that, there was like this insecurity of not feeling good enough, not being pretty enough, not being all the enoughs. My dad's a plastic surgeon. I used to sit in his slide room and look at before and afters for hours for fun as a child. So can you imagine what this does to a kid? I'm like looking at how to improve everything, and you're never good enough, right? So, and then my mom was this beautiful, like young, like, amazing energy. Everybody loved her. And so those were my examples, right? Like this is what I was exposed to. So it could have affected me in a positive way, but it more so gave me insecurities.
Okay.
And so I had to work through that, right? And so knowing that I needed like additional confidence, that's what drove me. Because if I've learned anything, and I've spoken on stages about this, I've literally had talks about the currency of confidence, because it is an absolute currency. And if we can magnify that skill set, really work on that skill set, which
Yeah.
we obviously can,
Yeah.
that's what's going to increase your paycheck. That's what's going to bring you love. That's what's going to do so much for you. And we don't stop to think that those are directly correlated. So I really started to work on myself from that perspective and build confidence. And that's why the self-development thing for me was so addicting, because it was working.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. You know, the thing is with confidence, it's interesting because it's not the smartest person at work who gets the raise. It's not the smartest person who even gets seen. Like, it's always the most confident, and it's always the person who's in front of the people, you know, and if, like, just saying hi to people and oozing that confidence, basically. How do you think people can really, I mean, do you think it's a practice, the confidence, or
1000%.
is it more of a, like, I mean, what is it? Because I feel
No,
like a lot of us
100%.
struggle, especially women, we struggle with that.
That's why Breaking Cinderella I'm so passionate about this because I've experienced it, right? When we can elevate our level of confidence, create conviction in our belief system. You know that when women apply for a job, they look at a job and they need to be 100% of the qualifications.
They think they do.
They think they do.
Okay.
They only typically will apply if they're at 100% of the qualifications. You know what it is for men?
What?
60.
Oh, really?
60%. I mean,
So they'll look through our
they're
job
like, generally good, I'm in. That's how much we're such perfectionists. We're constantly evaluating ourselves on this perfect picture, and that's what hurts us, right?
Okay.
It's like we've got to shift from the perspective of I'm pretty enough, I'm smart enough, I'm this enough. Changing that, like, versus chasing the perfection is what really hurts us. And 100%, it's a skill set that can be learned. I've learned it. I've grown. I went from. This is interesting. There was a period of time when I first moved to LA. I moved from Chicago. And LA was hard on me. I started to meet people that, you know, were challenging and not really, they were more surface level and not really authentic.
Okay.
And not to say I have great friends in LA, so I need to, you know, throw that in there.
Yeah.
But I remember when I had first gotten there, I got invited to a party and it was going to be all celebrities. And I was struggling at the time. My confidence levels dropped. I had these experiences that were really not so great.
Yeah.
And I remember skipping this party because I didn't feel good about myself.
Oh, wow.
Like, I would skip a party because it got to me.
Was it, how did it show up for you? Was it anxiety, or how does it show up for you?
Now,
Like,
I'm not someone who experiences a lot of anxiety, thankfully.
Yeah.
So I started to experience anxiety, and there's an energy and a consciousness that's running in what I believe in certain areas that you can pick up the consciousness of an area, right?
Right.
So it started to affect me. And I was on top of the world prior to moving there, like didn't have these issues, really was like, had worked on myself. And then it's like the crack in the foundation was there, right?
Okay.
And so it got through, that energy got through, and it started affecting me. Now, fast forward 6 or maybe 7 years, I'm on a stage in Cancun speaking to business coaches about the currency of confidence. That's how far you can go.
That's
Right? From
crazy.
skipping a party to like being on stage talking about confidence.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how did you like hone those skills of confidence? What do you think is the number one like foundation mindset? If anyone was to be like, I have zero confidence, I need to like do this thing, please tell me just like one thing.
I mean, there's not one thing, unfortunately, and there's a compounding effect of multiple strategies. Everything that we do, like when I teach anything, and confidence building is a big part of getting from A to Z, right? Or A to B even. It's really important that we compound multiple strategies. We're not one thing. We're not just our mind. We're not just our body. We're not just our spirit, right? We can't separate those things. And what often happens is like, oh, if I just think this way, but then your body is doing something else, and you feel this like horrible feeling in your chest or your gut or wherever, somewhere in your body, right? Like you're trying to tell yourself something, but your body says, no, that's not accurate.
Yeah.
So you have to create alignment, mind, body, spirit. And if you don't, you're not going to get the results that you want. It's so important to do that. You have to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And it starts with awareness, right? So once you start evaluating yourself, if I really understand where I am today, then I can start making steps towards the next, in the higher elevation.
Right.
And that's from our thoughts, from the way we think, to the way we speak, to the way our body. I mean, something as simple. Actually, you know what? Let me tell you a quick story.
Yeah, tell me.
When I worked for this lending company, I remember I just, still new to the US, fairly, right? I went to college and then right into the world of, the working world.
Yeah.
I remember walking into this office, and I was still so sweet and innocent, like whatever. I remember walking into office. This is a major mortgage house, like the biggest in the city. I walked into a side office because I had to send a fax. This is obviously a long time ago.
Okay. Faxes, guys.
Yeah, they used to do those. So I walk into this office and I go, "Excuse me, can I use the fax machine?"
Yeah.
Like really just sweet and timid. And this is prior to me doing really well at this company. I want to caveat that, right? I hadn't hit my stride at this company yet.
Okay.
The manager in that office looks at me, he goes, girl, come in here and assert yourself and speak up like you own the room or something to that effect. And I was like, oh, now my personality in a normal space would be like how I may talk to you, but in certain circumstances, like, hi.
Yeah.
Right? Like that timid, like not super.
Asking for permission kind of thing. Yes.
Not coming in with that full confidence.
Yeah.
That made such a difference, such an impact. To this day, I still remember it so clearly. Made such an impact on me. One of the biggest changes I made from that, because I was working hard. I became the #1 rep in that company. Why? One of the multiple things that I did was change how I delivered when I spoke. So as soon as he said that, I got it. I'm like, okay, I need to change the way I speak. And so I changed immediately to an assertive, a strong delivery, a more powerful delivery like I speak today.
Okay.
Really in that conviction of I know what I'm doing. Because just that one change, people believe you. If you're feeling so sweet and like whatever, like does she really know what she's doing?
Does she know what she wants? Yeah.
Right? So then once I changed that was one of the steps I took to becoming the #1 rep in that entire company.
I love that you're touching on this topic because I feel like this is really kind of important for women who are in the leadership space.
Yes.
Because we often have a problem with delivering the assertion and assertiveness versus, having that, like, keeping that warmth, keeping that feminine energy that does make us good leaders. What do you think is the balance between, like, exuding those two things?
Yeah. Honestly, when you're coming from a space of empathy, I talk a lot about conscious leadership. Conscious leadership is you're coming from a space of really having a more of a heart space, heart opening type of experience versus I own you type of experience, right? There are managers and people who run companies who come in like, I'm the boss, my way, that's it, right?
Right.
To be more conscious is to be more open, to have a heart space that's open so that we have the empathy to understand the people in front of us. Now, that's a feminine thing. If you want to label it, we can say that's more of it. Now, it's not exclusive to women. Men are moving in this direction more, and the conscious leadership initiative is heavily moving into a space of empathy. And I talk to leaders of different companies, even here in Dubai that I've met that are amazing leaders, and they really lead with empathy.
Yeah.
And it's an opportunity for women to still hold on to that softness while still asserting ourselves, right? Because the assertion is really just conviction, right? I need to come from conviction and belief in what I'm talking about and who I am. Now, can I do that at the same time and having compassion and empathy? Absolutely. And as long as you combine those things, you can still hold on to your femininity.
Yeah. No, it's a struggle. I feel like, look, I've also been in that position where I've managed a team before, and one of the things I struggled with was am I being too empathetic? Is it which strategy should I use now? Empathy or the assertion? Who needs to? So those little things I feel like is really, really helpful for people. Actually, it is based on maybe a personality type. Maybe it's not male, female. Maybe it's not gender specific.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's a balance, right? You can be. If I speak to you with conviction and I still have empathy, that's powerful, right?
Yeah, that is.
If I'm imbalanced on one side is too much empathy, because then I'm also putting my voice like this and like, oh, darling, you know what I mean? Like that changes my delivery.
100%.
If I stand in that conviction of strength and power, that's why we go through this framework of like drawing in power and moving from that space.
Yeah.
That's where you can be really, you can really move mountains that way.
What do you think people need to know about conscious leadership other than confidence? What do you think is the second kind of most important thing?
I'm a big believer in coming from, so my company initially started as a sales training company. I went through the Kellogg program, launched it after leaving a company that had sold. And I was like, what do I do with my life right now? You know, what's next? I've done sales. I've done really well at it. Let me start a sales training company because I love like training and coaching and things like that. So I called it the intention selling program. Why? Okay. Intention. If I come into every experience with a clear intention of how I want to leave, what experience I want to have, the way I speak, the words I choose, my body language, things will naturally fall into place because my focused intention is on this way of being. And if I am clear about that, everything else kind of follows. If my intention is to be a jerk, then my tone is going to change, my body language is going to change. I can flip it pretty quickly, right?
Yeah.
But if you lead with intention, then now you know that the direction will follow.
Yeah. Do you have any like mantras or things that you say to yourself
All the
whenever
time.
you're Give us a couple.
So there's different levels, right?
Okay.
It depends on where I am am I in conviction in a space, or am I like, a little wobbly on something and I need to go more general? I think it's really important when people are working on like abundance strategies or success strategies, which is a lot of what we work on. Sometimes if you get too specific, it goes against what your body feels and that you're out of alignment. So you can't say specific things. You have to go more general. So sometimes you go as general as everything's always working out for me. I'm going to go to the space that I know that everything's working out for me. I'm going to let that go. I don't have to figure it out. I know that the universe, God, is going to step in and help me. That's as general as you can go. And then you can like release some of the attachment, right?
Okay.
And
when would you say that to yourself? Is that more of like for a business, going out to sell something on stage? Like,
it depends. So
context.
I'm going, everything is working out for me if I don't have a clear idea of how it's going to work out. Right? Like I can't get specific because I'm kind of attached to like, is it this way? Is it that way? Maybe I'm in like a level of like, I haven't created the clarity, right? So going more general is the way to go.
Okay.
I was just speaking to someone, another business owner, about this, and we talked about how, how everything has a frequency, right? Literally everything, right? I would imagine most people understand that. So if we look at our words and the statements that we make, sometimes somebody's like, I'm wealthy. And they're like, oh, I really don't feel that, right?
Yeah.
But if you just do something as simple as mantra wealth, just say wealth, just say the words wealth. And whoever's listening to this, just say that for a moment. Close your eyes, see what it feels like in your body.
Right.
You're not feeling the contradiction of I'm wealthy, but you're feeling the energy. You start to feel the frequency of what wealth feels like. Okay. Now you can tap into that energy and move from that space. And mantras are only like the steering wheel. It's just directing you towards emotion, right? We still have to fuel that fire. It's just a direction.
I think that's the hardest thing for me when I manifest sometimes. I'm like, am I saying the right words? Because there's always this, they tell you, come from a space of already having it.
Yes.
So I'm like, how do I even word that?
Right.
Can you like tell people how we can?
So already so when we look at our frameworks, we look at, again, mind, body, spirit. That's how we're creating alignment. There's a process for that. So you want to compound each part of that experience so that you can really create that capsule of experience, and that's how you move forward. Now, when you're looking at creating, let's say from the beginning stage, you need to start. Actually, let me roll back a little bit. Something that I remind people, you're doing one of two things. You are either practicing success or you're practicing failure. So if you're worrying, you're practicing failure.
Okay.
Right? If you have a framework that you, mind, body, spirit are aligned, now you can practice success. In the moment of the challenge, you have the opportunity to respond with absolute conviction because you've practiced and you've got it.
Right.
Or you might wobble a little bit. You're like, I'm strong, but I still need a little work here. Or you crash and you go in a high beta frequency stress on the body. And that's like, a whole nother day or two later, you're still recovering from it, right?
Yeah.
So the idea is, how do we get to conviction? And for order to get to conviction, we have to align everything up. So obviously the way that we're thinking, that our body language, there's like a list of things that we want to do.
Okay. And then do you couple the way of thinking with like meditation and breathing and stuff like that?
Absolutely. That's the body, right? This body and spirit. Meditation, people who do not meditate don't know what they're missing.
No, that's great.
You're tapping into a different frequency, brain state, right? The idea is to body asleep, mind awake, right? How often do we have that experience? Only if you're meditating and you're doing it on purpose. How do you access a different level of your brain state while your body's asleep and your mind's away, and then you program yourself? We've been programmed since childhood. If we want to change our lives, we have to reprogram all the trauma and all the challenges we've had. And that list is
100%.
long.
And
you don't even think about all the things you have to reprogram.
Yeah, and the thing is, you actually feel yourself deprogramming. Like when you start the meditation, sometimes you actually physically feel like that discomfort, like that initial like disconnection of, oh my God, I was thinking this way, now I'm thinking the complete opposite. Is like, who am I?
Yeah, totally.
There's this like moment of like just losing yourself a little bit and then being like, okay, now we
And there's something to
recalibrate.
be said to that, because often we give so much credit to our thoughts. Our thoughts aren't us. We have some of the craziest thoughts
have
ever.
crazy
If
thoughts.
we gave credit to every thought, we would have issues, right? Like we need
which a
to
lot of
acknowledge that
people
our
do.
thoughts are not us, and then to
Yes.
direct them to our benefit.
Right. Okay, so your teachings, how you like coach people, is it for business? Like, are you like a big kind of what's that word? Proponent? I don't know what the word is, but anyway, do you recommend that people go from like manifesting, these things in their lives and then it translates into business, or should we just like kind of keep things separate in terms of what we're asking for in
There's no
life?
separation.
There's no separation.
No, there's zero separation. So Breaking Cinderella is a mastermind focused on manifesting strategies with business strategies. We want to help people excel at their business.
Okay.
So we combine the two.
Okay.
I also have Crowdcatcher AI,
Yes.
which is a lead generation AI company, and we're actually in the next few weeks launching online program, digital program, so that we can help business owners learn how to use or create lead generation for their company. So we're going to walk them through the process to create their own lead gen using Facebook, Instagram ads, and how to do the landing page and the funnels and automate all that. It's going to be, I believe, like very, very popular. We'll see.
You are doing so much. Like, how do you manage everything? I mean, this is like.
It helps that I don't have children. I just want to, that helps. So I get to really focus on myself and my business. But I also incorporate like the help of other people. Like, how can I, like, I have a
delegation.
Great Heather Michaels, God bless her. She is my right hand, and she's managing things on the inside. She's, like, without her, I don't know what I would do. But the point is, it's like if a business owner is not at a point where they can hire somebody, they can bring people in that believe in the vision and what you're doing and believe in you, right? Or like create that conviction to bring people around you that can help support and create the ultimate goal that you're working towards, right?
Yeah.
That's so important, that the people that are around us feed us in the right direction. And if they're
100%.
not, my God, get away.
Yeah.
Get away, reduce. If it's a family member, reduce time, whatever you can do, because they're going to affect your results. It's a consciousness around us that we need to make sure is supportive of ultimately what we want.
Look, and it's also a bit hard, I guess, Middle Eastern families, like, because we are so enmeshed and kind of integrated in each other's lives, it's kind of a bit hard to separate sometimes. You physically have to move. You
have to do it though. Depending on what your goals are, what you want to do, if you're building a business, you've got to eliminate some of the negative talk and energy. And so I'm also a believer. I believe the cheat code to life is energy work. If everything is energy and we can manipulate and move energy, which
What
we
kind
can.
of energy? Tell us the
God.
specifics.
So I just did a talk at Mind Valley University, and if people aren't familiar with Mind Valley, it's the largest self-development platform in the world. They're amazing.
I love Mind Valley,
They're amazing. And on stage, I pulled out a pendulum, and I wish I had one, which I actually do have one. But anyway, I do actually. I do have it with me. But I held this pendulum and I sent energy, and it's practice, right? Like I sent energy, asked the pendulum to move right and left and then forward and back. And I'm holding as still as possible and it's moving. And I've done this in ways where it's literally like sideways moving so aggressively and tugging, right? And I'm holding it perfectly
You're not
still.
touching it. Yeah, I mean, like you're not moving it.
I'm holding it perfectly still, and I'm sending my intention through it. And you can see the energy. It's just swinging,
That's
right?
insane.
Based on me telling it what to do. Now, if I can do that in 2 seconds in front of you, I can do it with anything, right? So if we have that focused intention and alignment, now directing energy towards what we want to create, magic happens. Now, how do you do that? There's a process. And it's literally, it's all visualization practices. Just like this is a quick visualization intention setting example, you do the same thing with, I need to pull out negative energy from my body. I need to ground out insecurity. I need to bring in my confidence. I need to ground out the consciousness of whatever energy field I'm stepping into. There's so many different ways to look at it. And we bring in, but I swear to God, I have used this on people who in minutes, I've moved them from crying about a situation, losing it, thinking, what am I going to do? And within under 5 minutes, have them being like, what was I thinking? I can't even believe I was thinking this way. What, like literally in minutes, complete shifts. And you could see it so fast. And here we think our emotions we give so much credit. Our emotions, this is really what's happening to me.
No.
It's so fleeting. Our emotions are fleeting. You can as simple as like, if you start crying, just start running.
Yeah.
You can't continue crying if you're running. And if you're running and you start crying, you're going to stop running, right? Your body responds, right?
body
You can't
responds when
do
you
you
tell
can't do both at the same time.
100%.
So once you learn these tricks, you can start to manipulate your results by incorporating these cheat codes. And I'm telling you, cheat codes, I do not say that lightly.
Do you consider yourself like a logical person because of the manifestation, or does it make you more emotionally attuned? Because I mean, obviously, some, like you said, emotions are fleeting. So what do you think? I mean, what can we tap into? Because also energy, you can argue, is partly emotion. You know, when you don't feel right about something, it's a feeling.
Yep.
How can we tell the difference between
emotion
like
and
an energy, like between, okay, say you have a bad feeling about something and not acting on that. I mean, what are the questions you ask yourself?
So there's a full exercise that I go through on this one where, so the Heart Math Institute has done over 30 years of studies on the heart. The heart is super intelligent, and we only give credit to our minds, but our heart has its own mind.
Right.
It speaks to us. It's giving us direction. It's constantly giving us insight. And if we tap into it, and there's ways to do that, you can get information. So I have an exercise that we do when we need clarity about something, and it's part of it is using the heart math technique to tap into the heart, breathing through the heart, focused intention, right? Because wherever you send your energy or whatever you put your attention on is where you're sending your energy.
Right.
Your energy is your life force, the life force of humanity, right? So if you send your life force to your heart and start focusing on that, and then you elevate the energy field around it, once you do that, you can actually tap into a greater level of intuition. And there's studies done on like, you can tap into your intuition this way. So once you do that, you can like line up different opportunities in front of you and tap into what feels right and what doesn't. And it's a very specific process. We can't completely walk through today, but
because I mean, the concept, you know, the intuition part is very hard for people, I feel, to kind of figure out. Is it my mind? What is it exactly that is trying to tell me something?
Yeah,
so
it's really important to make sure you're elevated. You're something I call frequency management, right? Like my frequency at a certain level. I want to raise my frequency to a higher level. Once I'm at a higher level, I want to ask questions at that higher level. Because once I get an answer, and an answer could be something like my body got really tight, or like I've got my eyes closed and it got really dark. And like little signs that you get that give you insight into the direction.
Right.
You might be someone who's very intuitive and you get images, right? But you may not get images. You might just get a feeling.
Yes.
And once you do that for yourself and you tap into that way of being, you start to make different decisions because you're like, okay, that now I know because I got a very clear feeling because I elevated myself. And if I'm dropping from an elevation, that's telling me to back off, right? That's not telling me to move forward.
Yeah, that's really interesting. How do you speak a lot about you know what you teach in publicly?
Yes.
How do you how have you been taught that somewhere? Are you just a natural speaker? Like, tell us a little bit about that.
I'm a natural speaker. Let me tell you, I have not. I like to think that maybe today I'm becoming more of a natural speaker, but like I used to get nervous. Now I don't, unless I don't have sleep, and then it's really a struggle, which happened to me recently. But you know, you get on stage, and when you're really passionate about a subject matter and you really want to relay information and help people, it's no longer about you. So nervousness is gone. You step into a flow, and now you're delivering information like you're being guided. And there's nothing better than doing a talk like that because it's not about you.
100%, I agree, because I feel like when you're doing a talk that you're not really passionate about the topic, this is when things start getting a bit weird.
How do you end up on a stage talking about something you're not passionate about? How does this happen?
I've had to do that a couple of times for work, and I'm just like,
you're like, get me off the stage.
Please get me off the stage, because I have to be. I'm the kind of person I have to be completely like just aligned with what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
And when it's not, I'm like, okay, this is
I can understand that. I would feel the same way.
Yeah. What are some non-negotiables for you daily when you like wake up in the morning? You have, you know, these businesses to tend to and your own health and, you know, mindset and stuff that you want to do. What are some non-negotiables for you?
Great question. I want to caveat this by saying, one of the things that I learned, I became a coach through one of Tony Robbins' coaching programs. And one of the most valuable insights I learned was 6 human needs psychology. I understand when I look at my 6 human needs, all people are affected by their top two needs, because that's the direction of your life. Your top two needs will tell you the direction. In fact, if you're in a relationship and you don't match at least one of the top two needs in your relationship's not going to last.
Really?
Whole nother subject we can get into.
Oh my God. How
Now,
come?
so I know my top two needs are love and connection is one of them, and which is pretty normal for most women.
Yeah.
And variety is very high for me.
Okay.
And then growth is right there with variety. So I know that my top two needs, all needs for that matter, because they're needs, they're not nice to have. So we need to have these. So I make sure that all my needs are being met within work, within my day. And especially with work, when you work for yourself and you're not always in front of people and you're at a computer by yourself, I know I need to create connection.
Yeah.
So being it's a top two need, I make sure that that's happening, or else I'm going to get burnt out, right? It's
Right.
going to drain me. I need that need to be satisfied.
Yeah.
I'm already getting enough variety with what I'm doing, but
Yeah, good.
that need is the one I have to work on when I'm at like an office by myself.
How do you do that? Because I
get on Zooms. I
You
either
go,
get
yeah.
on Zoom, I go work from a coffee shop, I connect with a friend midday, take
Okay.
10 minutes out, talk to them,
Okay,
and
that's good.
get that need met.
Great.
I also have my own masterminds, right?
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm such a believer in masterminds. What's really magic, I'm going to use that word only where it's appropriate, because this is really
this
where
is
it's
the
appropriate.
title of this YouTube
Yeah, totally.
episode.
Creating magic in your
Creating
life.
magic.
But honest to God, the most incredible thing that you'll see when it comes to accomplishing goals. I'm sending life force energy to my goals.
Yeah.
When I bring a group together and everybody's working on their goals, but part of our mastermind, what we do is we have a visioning exercise at the end where everybody walks through, they close their eyes, everybody's eyes are closed, and we walk through the experience of already creating and having something. So I'm
Right.
like, I walked into my home and I went and I just had this instinct to open my laptop, and I open it, I pull up my email, and there it is, the congratulations email. Oh my God. And like
Yeah.
I'm talking through it and really expressing the feeling. Now, that's me on my own. If I'm in a mastermind group, my other partners in that group are all having their eyes closed and they're sending their life force energy to my vision, and we're all
Yeah.
doing it for each other.
Yeah.
The magic that's happened in these masterminds would blow your mind.
Oh, I love it.
Our masterminds would eventually end because major book signing deals. Now they're traveling the world, signed the biggest account of their lives, moved to China. Like legit, the biggest things you can imagine happen through
Yeah.
the process of how we've created these masterminds. And it's because we're sending life force energy.
Yeah.
So that's why
and
I
everyone's
say
sharing
that.
theirs. It's the sharing of the life
With the
force.
intention, like you want everybody to send it with positive intention, right? And
Right.
we're all following that framework of self-development and alignment and belief, right? Like, so we have people that are like-minded, for
Yeah.
very important that you have the like-minded people, and we're learning the same way. And then we have the structure for that, and then we send the energy the way that I mean, magic.
Yeah.
Pure magic.
Are you the only one who teaches the mastermind, or is there someone else with you who coaches?
So no, when these
When
are
you're
my
coaching.
masterminds, I'm always running them.
Oh,
so
okay,
Breaking
yeah.
Cinderella is going to be a mastermind as
mastermind,
well,
okay.
because 90% of people don't finish programs. And I was like, I don't want another program that people don't complete. I want them to come in our program and have the support, the community, but then the weekly accountability to show up and actually do what you're saying you're going to do towards the goal that you're looking to accomplish.
So how
Now,
did you-
people's goals change week by week sometimes, and that's normal because they realize I wanted this big goal, and then you're like, oh, you know what? Now that I'm in it, I'm like, it actually kind of goes against my value system, and now I'm going to change it and readjust it. It's a very normal thing for people to get greater clarity through the process, because when you have accountability,
Yeah.
it's like now you have a business coach with you. Here's all the business strategies, here's all the frameworks, here's everything, and here's your accountability group. You're not going anywhere.
Yeah. Are there any prerequisites people have to have before joining your mastermind?
We do an interview process for that.
Okay,
That's
so-
launching. This new one is launching next month.
Do they have to have their own businesses before, or is it just more
They do
like
not.
they
They
don't?
do not.
Okay.
They just have to have what they want to create, right? They know that they either want to create a business or already in a business, whatever level they are, they just they have specific goals. They want the accountability, they want the manifestation strategies, they want the business strategies.
Right. And how can people access those those top 6 needs? Is there like a test that someone can do online?
6 human needs, yeah.
The
You can
6
find
human
it so
needs.
easily online, and you
Okay.
can take a quiz, and
That'd be awesome.
Find
For
that's
people
very important
in the show notes. Yeah.
And I've done it where I've worked with major corporations, and
Yeah.
they bring me in to speak with some of their executives, and we walk through that framework, because sometimes they're having an issue with an executive, right? Like this person's not showing up the same way, something's going on, whatever. And we go through this framework, and in one session, I remember this so clearly, I had this one session with this manager, and then 2 days later, I get a call from one of the other execs, and they're like, "What did you do?
Really?
I can't believe this
How
person's
exciting.
coming." I was like, because we aligned. We created alignment and clarity, right? And once you do that, you show up differently, right? And that's what it is. The two challenges we have are external and internal, and the internal never goes away. The external is there, and the internal is the second, right?
Yeah.
How do we respond to it? And if we learn how to respond effectively, we can create things much more.
Are there people who are very like kind of, don't really trust the process, kind of who are holding back, that you feel like, what are your,
some people need buy-in, right? Like some people they take time, right? They don't, if you look at the major four personality types, the super analytical people are like, I have my process, and you can't push me past my process. So let me go through that. And, as I move through this, I'll get there, right? Okay. So that's different from a dominant personality or an influencer personality. So depending on who they are, they need some buy-in.
Yes.
And we slowly get there,
That's very interesting. I love that. Amazing. I feel like we've covered, like, we've really, is there anything that you want to talk about that, maybe I haven't touched upon?
Something that I'm very excited about is, this new move to Dubai that happened this week, actually, which is crazy. It feels like I've been here. Thank you. I'm very excited. And with the launch of Breaking Cinderella, it's getting a lot of attention and traction. There's articles that are going to come out here soon about it. And so my hope for the region is that people embrace this concept and that they're open-minded enough to understand that at no point are we talking about men versus women, because I think that's something that comes up very quickly, like, the masculine, the feminine, and you want to be taken care of by a man, and that's okay. 100%. I want to be very clear. Man shows up and he wants to take care of you and he's a good person, by all means, let him. That's not what we're saying. We're talking about creating independence and freedom for ourselves. It doesn't mean saying no to the gifts of life, which is a man who wants to be a gentleman and chivalrous. Absolutely. It's important that we create independence and freedom for ourselves, because if we give power to outside sources, that man, that job, that experience, and we don't own our own power internally and create and cultivate it to direct it to those things, then there's a point where that can be challenging, where what if that man dies? What if he leaves you? What if whatever happens? What if that job disappears? The industry changes, right? We're in an age where the world is accelerating with AI, right? A lot of things are going to change over the next few years. 100%. So what are you doing to generate your internal power that no matter what happens externally, you're still good? That's the idea. You want to make sure that you're still powerful no matter what external circumstances happen. And that's really the messaging that I want to bring, especially to the Middle East. I'm hoping to speak in Saudi here in the near future. And it's like, growing up there, I want to bring that messaging is like, you can create independence and freedom, and it goes against nobody. It just helps you.
It just helps you, It doesn't mean that you're, you have to be this kind of have walls up. No, I don't need no man. No, I don't need nothing. It's not about that, And
it doesn't make you masculine to be independent and have internal freedom and power. You can still be as feminine as possible and let a man lead where he leads, right?
It's your choice at the end of the day where you want to be feminine and where you want to, it's kind of.
And you and I briefly talked about like the whole Sigma.
Yeah, I want to talk about that actually. It's a little bit off topic, but I saw one of your videos and you talked about alpha, beta, and then there's Sigma partner.
There are a lot.
There are a few,
right? Yeah. I think the most important, anytime you have a female who is driven in her career and really wants to create her own, we were told, listen, you need to pipe it down a little bit, because you're probably never going to find a man because you're too, maybe you're an alpha or whatever. You're too, we need you to be submissive. Oh my God, I'm going to get hate for this, but God, I really despise the word submissive.
No.
Submissive, let's look at this for a moment. If you're a strong female, it doesn't mean that you need to control a man by any means. God forbid. I want a man to come in and like take control. Please, for the love of God, take control.
Take it off my
No problem. But here's the thing. Lead where you're strong. If there's an opportunity where I'm stronger in something than you are, because sorry, gentlemen, you guys are not the perfect humans. You can't be perfect at everything. So maybe there's something that I'm a stronger leader in. Like, whether or party planning. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
throwing out something.
Finances, maybe.
Something, anything. Allow the woman to have the space to lead. It doesn't make you less than. It doesn't make you, there doesn't reduce
make
you
you
as a
beta.
man, right?
Yeah.
Now, what I learned, especially for strong women, we've always been told there's one of two choices. You can have a beta or an alpha, and nobody wants the beta when you're a strong female,
Yeah.
or maybe most of us don't, right?
Yeah.
So we're always going for alphas, and alphas are like, I need you to be submissive, and they're super competitive with us, and we have a lot of challenges.
Yes.
Later, I discover the Sigma. The Sigmas do not compete with their women. They want their women to be strong and independent. It doesn't mean they're not being gentlemen and chivalrous. They're still showing up that way, but they're a bit of a lone wolf. They're natural leaders. They kind of sit in the background. They get pulled to be leaders and run things because of their natural leadership skills.
Right.
However, they're not in front of the room saying, I'm the big dog. I'm the one, who's got to do it. Like, they're not leading in that way.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to the relationship with women, they're like, please rise up. Let's be a power couple. No problem. I'm still going to lead where, I'm going to lead.
Yeah.
But they allow the women to have the space, and there's not that competitive energy that causes a lot of problems for strong women.
Yeah, 100%.
So women, ladies, do not be deterred, or like the idea of like, oh my God, I need to change who I am. You don't. You just have to find that little bit of an adjustment. And there's plenty of Sigmas out there who are looking for strong women.
Great. Hear that, Sigmas?
Where are you, Sigmas? Let's go.
No, but I love that, because then when the woman is kind of let to be on her own, to do the thing that she's always, live her purpose and
Yeah.
be independent, that lack of resistance that she has and friction that she has with her partner just allows her to kind of naturally be that empathetic, feminine, whatever you want to call it,
Absolutely,
thing.
yeah.
Because you're like, okay, now I can finally be led. It's
Yes.
okay. I can let
Yeah.
go of this part a little bit.
And it's not to say because you're leading that means I'm submissive.
No.
You're a strong leader. Please lead.
Yeah.
I don't need to. I don't feel the need to take over. Now, if there's an opportunity where you're tired, it's
Yeah.
time for me to lead because I'm strong and I can do it. So no problem.
Yeah.
It doesn't make the man any less of a man.
It's a balance.
It's a balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love balance.
Amazing. I love balance. Thank you so much, Rola. This has been amazing.
course.
Where can people find you online?
I'm on Instagram at Rola Speaks, Rola Speaks. And if you look up breakingcinderella.com, you'll find us.
Nice.
And then crowdcatcher.ai for the lead generation. That's the program is going to come out here in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Perfect.
Yes.
Any speaking kind of engagements going on for you?
Yeah. It's not finalized, but Arab Women's Awards is coming up, and I should be at that event. And then there's a few that are, still being solidified. But yeah, you'll see me.
Amazing.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yasmin.
Guys, if you like this episode, comment below, say hello, subscribe, and see you later.